I'm David Twiggs, and I've met a lot of y'all, but there's a lot of y'all I haven't met. I look forward to meeting everybody, and I appreciate everybody coming out today. So again, we didn't know whether to put out 10 chairs or 100 chairs, and 100 chairs wouldn't have been enough either, anyway. So we appreciate everybody coming up. The thing I want to talk about today, because we really want to get a conversation started. There's a lot of things that we have to talk about in this community. You know, I came here, I guess I've been here not quite 2 months now, but before I came here I did a lot of, I looked hard at this community to see if this was a place that I wanted to pull my family up, come halfway across the country and see, because there's a lot of interesting things going out there in the real estate market now. The real estate market's starting to come back. Again, it's coming back in a different form, in a different way than we had before. So, you know, I've got friends that run these types of communities all over, well, really all over the world, but definitely all over the United States, that they're all having trouble. Everybody's having trouble, but some places have huge opportunities and some places don't know what to do. I think this place has huge opportunities or I wouldn't be here. And that's the conversation I want to get started on today, because it's not all easy and it's not all fun. That's why my dad says that's why this is a job and not a hobby, because you got to work for a living to make this stuff happen. And that's what we're going to do, but we're going to work together and try to make this happen. So again, today's just kind of the start of a conversation that we're going to continue on. So let's look at this. To give it a little bit of history, this was one of the early communities being 40 years old. But so really the 1980s and 1990s were kind of the heyday of this type of community. But the thing is, back in that point in time, the message that these communities, the marketers, were putting out to the buyers were, hey, the boomers are going to retire, so invest your money, flip some property, you'll never lose a dime. Ever. Your property values will never go down. Okay? Buy your retirement property now while it's cheap, because again, you got to think, 20 years ago, these communities, even though this one was 20 years old, it was still kind of new. And this place was still pretty young. We didn't have that much build out in through there. There was a lot of inauthentic promises. There was a lot of promotional hype that sold this. There was a whole lot of property being sold on conceptual drawings during this time frame that may or may not have come to fruition. And if I fall off of here, cut those cameras off. But but that's okay. That's okay. But the key to what I'm trying to say is, during that point in time, just the fact that you had golf courses in a private community with gates made you unique. You were unique back 20, 30 years ago because these things were new. Now they're not new. Again, you didn't have to be a unique destination to sell real estate in these types of communities 30 years ago. We got example after example of that. This is Hot Springs Village as of July, as of today, for that matter. Okay? Everything you see in purple is a developed property. So we see how this place develops over the last 40 years. Okay? Where did we start? We started on the west gate over here. What was the value over here? There's a golf course, there's a lake, and there's the west gate. It's all it was 40 years ago. That's all we had. So you got development. But as time went on and as we developed further across, you see what happens. If you've got a golf course, you got development. If you've got a lake, you've got development. If you've got a ridge line with a 30-mile view, you've got development. If you've got this center, if you've got the fitness center, you've got development. Anywhere there was value added, we've got development. And one thing we got to remember is we're too big to just be, we're not a neighborhood. We're 26,000 acres. We're huge. We're bigger than most cities. Okay, so there's a lot of places, there's a lot of areas. You go to any city, there's areas you would love to live, there's other areas you wouldn't want to live at all. Okay, that's because there's different neighborhoods and different fields. That's why we have development in some parts of ours and no developments in others. So when we're looking at these types of things, again, this is not unique to us, but it's very clear here. Where there was value, where there was a reason for homes to be built, homes were built. We're looking at what's going on now. Now we have to create distinctive destinations through authenticity. And what that means is you can't sell conceptual drawings. If you're not real, if you're not a real community, if you're not a real place with real people and real activities, all these gauzy looking advertisements don't mean squat. You've got to be authentic and you've got to be real. You also have to focus on your strengths. I tell the golfers, you may move here for golf, but you're going to figure out you live in the middle of the darn woods. So if you want an urban golf course, you can find one. We have the unique conditions of amazing golf courses out in basically the middle of the national forest. There's a market for that, but we haven't followed up. And that's what I'm saying when we're saying you have to be true to who you are as a community. Again, we can bring all those people who want to live in an urban center here. We can trick them with whatever marketing trickery, foolery we want to do. They're going to figure out they don't want to live here if this isn't the kind of community. But again, we're using old practices. There were practices, standard marketing practices from the 1980s, 1990s. They get perpetuated. And our marketing is probably better than it's been in the last 20 years. The problem is we're telling a 20-year-old story. And that's what we've got to change. From our case, this is our case, we're in nature. We got to reconnect people with the outdoors. If you don't like the outdoors, this is probably not the place you want to live. I'm sorry. Because you just look out in your yard about 10 o'clock at night and the outdoors are coming to visit you. And have new ideas. One of the things that we've got to do, we've got to have a continuation and continue updating the parts of Cooper's original plan that weren't put into place. What happens in these communities, and again, this is nationwide. This isn't just us. You got a developer. They come in and they put in amenities. All right, they've got a bigger master plan, but they come in and put in amenities as they're selling. Once they sell through, what happens? It transfers over to a POA. Who's on the POA board? The people who have moved there for what's already there. It's natural. I mean, that's the way it works. I mean, that's just the way it works. So what happens is parts of the ongoing master plan never get completed. We're not going to get growth by simply doing more of the same. We're lucky. Cooper did the expensive part. They built the lakes. They built the golf course. If I standing up here and said, we need to build $30 million worth of new golf courses, this would be a very short meeting as y'all chase me out the back door. I was talking to one of my board members today, not today, but a few days ago, and we're talking about some of the due diligence that I did. If we weren't doing the water plant expansion, if that wasn't already in place, I wouldn't have come here. Because you can't grow if you don't have water. Who read in the Hot Springs paper over the last week that developers who are wanting to put in new communities down there can't get water for their communities? All right? We're sitting here building the capacity. That's a story. I'm not trying to tell y'all a story. I'm trying to tell a story to the bankers, to the builders, to the people who are going to invest in this community. So when we're looking at that, we can't simply do more of the same. We've got to have a new story. That doesn't mean we have to give up what was important to us. Golf is our key element. We built this place on golf. We're going to keep golf very strong. The difference is you can't be golf only anymore. The old golf only community model is not relevant anymore. It's actually seen as a negative by the boomers. They may want golf and they'll pay good money for golf, but they don't want golf only because they're not playing 200, 250 rounds a year. They're playing a round a week, maybe. If they play a round a week, if they're playing 24 rounds a year now, they're considered by the National Golf Association as a major core golfer. From friends and neighbors. This is tough. I mean, we're not a little 200-acre community. We're 26,000 acres. There's a whole big time frame. So we got to look and build those places where you're not isolated, where you're around people. Because to me, when I'm talking about community, it's not real estate space. It's a collection of relationships. It's the people. The people's what makes the community. Everything else is just stuff. Okay. Consumer culture. Okay, a lot of these places, especially in the 70s and 80s, were built kind of from the mindset of how do we process people from paying us at the fitness center to paying us at the golf course to paying us at the restaurant to paying us to paying us to paying us. And there's no spaces that I call civic spaces where people can just go and be around their friends without being nickeled and dimed, without having to join, without having to do this and that. It's about creating those spaces that you can just be. In the planning, and everybody knows I'm a big planning nerd, so when you're talking about planning, it's called the third place. For people that are working, they got their work, they got their home, and then it might be that restaurant, that bar, it might be that park, it might be that place, but that third place. Well, y'all, for a lot of you, the golf course is your work. You want to be there between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. You want to be home by 3 or 4 in the afternoon. That's your work day. You know, you got home, but where's that other place that we get people together that's not necessarily on the golf course? Well, these trends have caught up with us in about 2006, 2007. That's what happened when you're talking about the housing boom. And the housing boom was all mortgages and subprime and all that kind of loveliness. But what happened during that time frame that does impact us is lifestyle changed. People are more frugal than what they are. People are interested in getting value, and it's not any more status. The bigger, the shinier, the whatever is not a status symbol anymore. It's about experience. It's about spending time with people, and the experience is what we're looking at. So when I'm going down here, being generic doesn't cut it anymore. And I don't mean, again, one lifestyle fits all. We saw that with all these types of communities for many years. Now we have to be specific. We have to be the best in something. And when I'm looking at different communities, I'm saying, well, what can they be the best in? We have the opportunity because of our quality of place, and that means our natural features and where we are. We have the opportunity to be something. But again, you got to have diverse lifestyles. We have gotten the build out that we're going to get off of the lake. When I say that, I'm talking in the big picture. We're always going to. We've got room for some more golf course houses. We got some room for more lake houses, and we'll get that little small incremental growth. But for all intents and purposes, if that's the only things that we're going to have, we're pretty much grown out. Well, we can't be grown out, and I'll show you why we can't be grown out. This is 2001 through 2012. The light green bar is how much we bill out in assessments. The dark green bar is how much we collect in assessments. Actually, how much money do we get in play? 2006 is the best year we've had in a decade. Okay? Right before the crash, everything was popping. People are flipping properties, which was a lot of fun until you're the last man holding the property. You know, that's no good at all. But in 2006, we had a 99.8% collection rate. Amazing, isn't that? That is absolutely amazing. We bailed out $13.17 million and brought in $13.16 million. Okay, that's impressive. But then we know what happened in 2007 and 2008. And this is the trend that none of us want to live in a community if this is going to continue. I don't want to work here if this is going to continue. And this is what my challenge, and it's not just my challenge, it's our challenge is. In 2000, and I'm going to just talk about collection rates. In 2006, it was 99%. 2007, 98, 94, 89, 83, 80.1, 80. Barely 80. Okay? What does that mean in dollars? Well, in 2012, that was $3 million that wasn't collected from our assessments. Okay? Now, we can all stomp around and say, well, let's go foreclose, let's go do this, do that. There's really not a reality to that because, again, we go foreclose on all of them without a place to send them off somewhere else, and they're considered of low value. Well, then all we're doing is paying taxes. This was what was happening during that time frame. 2007, we had what I call unproductive properties. I don't care who owns them. POA may own them. NRPI may own them. Somebody else may own them that just decided they don't want to pay for whatever reason. In 2007, we had 685 non-performing properties. In 2012, we have 6,800. 10 times the amount of unperforming properties in 6 years. Okay? Yeah, we had a major recession about right here. It started easing off about right here, but still, who couldn't use $3 million extra a year? You know, I ride over here and I'm looking at places I still want to get mowed, you know, potholes I still want to get fixed, and I'm looking at these and I'm saying $3 million a year. Well, again, our assessments are not that high. How much are they a year? $432 a year. For somebody to say it's not worth $432 a year for me to be associated with Hot Springs Village is a pretty sad statement. Because that's what these 6,000 people said. It's not worth it. Now, some of these were investors, I agree. I mean, it wasn't all of those individuals. But that's the trend that we've got to stop. Because when we're looking at these things, when I'm looking at these elements, when the money gets cut, there's only so many things you can do. We can go get more money out of the people who are paying. Ooh, not very much fun there, okay? We can lower standards. We kind of tried that. How long do we want to not mow? How long do we want to not fix culverts? How long do we want to not do those things? Long term, that's not sustainable. We can't not do any work and get out of our issue. Well, what's the other thing? Other people's money. This $3 million. Other property. How do we do that? We've got to add value. And plain and simple, this is my focus. We have to bring new value to non-performing lots, okay? We may push it up to 75 houses this year. We may push it up to 200 houses this year. But we got 6,000 people not paying us. We better push it up to some serious numbers. And that's not all housing. We don't need housing. We need confidence. If they got confidence that their property is going to grow in value, they're at $400 a year. Give me a break. That's, right now I see this place as like an undervalued stock. Okay, that's where I see it. When I'm seeing properties for sale, and we're in these debates. Should properties be valued at $1,000 or $500 or whatever? And I'm sitting here saying, no, I want properties valued at $10,000. I'm wanting confidence in these things. Let's look at some of these elements, okay? When Cooper decided to look at here, this is how the developer's thinking. All right, you want this to a degree when you're siting a new development. The natural zone. For us, we got plenty of that. That's the natural forest. That's the natural zone. The rural zone. That's these farms that we see as we go out Glazy Poe and all these big open space, nice open farmlands. This is what we are. 90%. It's called suburban zone. I know we're in the woods and urban and suburban don't really resonate with us, but for these intents and purposes, it's a suburban zone because what we got is relatively large, isolated, single-family homes. Okay, we are a sprawl development which was cutting edge in 1975, and that's what we've got. Well, then we look at the general urban zone. I'll talk about that in a minute. When you're looking at an urban center, that's hot springs to us. If you're going to go down to your big stores and all that, we don't want that in the middle of our village, but that's our urban center to go to. And if we need an urban core type place, we got that 45 minutes in Little Rock. But what we don't have as a community, and this is where all your new towns, all your new urbanist communities, this is why the villages in Florida have been the top selling place for the last 3 years. It's not because of the golf courses. You can't get a tee time at the villages in there. They got so many people. Where are they selling their new property? On new village centers and places like that, places where there's common areas to look at. And so that when we're looking at general urban, for our intents and purpose, we can say village. We can say hamlet. Where is the village? As my wife said, now take me down to the village now that we're in here. I'm like, well, I can take you where Cooper, this is the 1970s original master plan. Again, you can't see it. I can't even see it when it's laying on the table in front of me. But when we look at it and interpret it, Cooper they called them city centers. Okay, they had these city centers. They had these parks. When y'all look at these undeveloped areas that we had, they had plans in there for putting value to them. Now, on the one hand, we're kind of lucky that didn't happen because then we'd have 30-year-old properties that we had to revamp. And again, if we got shuffleboard courts up there, that's not going to be a big draw to the baby boomers, But so we don't have that at this point in time. But what we do have is the ability to come in and do some of those. Cooper had these things. They had the village centers. They had an equestrian center. They had these parks up in through here. A lot of different elements. It wasn't cutting edge like the new things now, but they were forward enough thinking that this is how it had to come in. Again, you've seen this. This is where our development is as of today. Boom, right there. You see that orange? That's where our non-performing properties are. Okay? Where there's not value. Down here, that's one lot. It looks like a big bunch of development, but that's one house on one lot. Down in here, there's nothing. Right in the center of our village, the middle of us, there is nothing. There's probably an actual physical square mile in the center of our village that probably has 3 houses in it. Okay? And those are the places. We were talking about lot values. We're sitting there saying, do we sell our lots for $500? Do we sell our lots for $1,000? Can we buy a $1,000 or a $500 lake lot here? No. Can you buy a $1,000, $500 golf course lot here? Can you buy a $500 lot next to the fitness center or any of the things that we've added value to? No, you can't. But you come in here in the middle of these big bunches of orange where there is nothing. There is nothing there. There is nothing there to add value. Where there's a reason, you got a lake, you got development. You got nothing, you got nothing. You got a golf course, you got development. You got nothing, you got nothing. You got no value. So what developers do is they walk in and see land and say, I got an idea that I can add value to that land. And that's all it is an idea and putting an idea in place. Well, the capital markets out there right now, if I went to the bank and I said, listen, Mr. Banker, I know where 26,000 acres is, and I want to put in water plants, sewer plants, roads, all these types of things, and about 8 golf courses, and start selling property, they would run me out. This kind of place is not going to happen again in the near future. And that's why I'm here. Because after 40 years, let me switch back to where we were, we're only 26% developed. We've got the opportunities to do all kinds of different developments that don't impact. When we're saying new types of development, we're not changing what the golf course lots and the golf course homes are going to be. We know they've got a set pattern. We know what the lake lots and stuff are going to be. But we can go up here. We can go up here on the middle of a hillside where there's no homes for 400 acres and create a whole different type of community. They're adding value. I said before, Cooper did the expensive stuff. If we came in here with some of these things that are relatively low cost, we're talking everything from art centers to different things like that. These are things that are fun. We're not talking about things that are not fun. And we'll talk about some of those. We put some of those lower cost things in. They're paying the same assessment as that person who's playing 200 rounds a year of golf. And that assessment, if we're doing it, if the thing they moved here for is a break even, a little small break even thing, but it's a very popular thing, well, all that person's extra assessments gets to go to keep our assessments low, to keep our golf rates low, to keep all of our rates low. So growth in these other things will allow us to keep what we love, the golf, the lakes, those things, stronger, because we'll have more money to do it with. So what's working in other places? Okay? We talked a little bit about village centers. Your average village center is probably 5 to 10 acres. You're not talking 300 acres. You're talking an area about the size of Coronado Center, the fitness center, and the tennis courts. We've got that 50 times in different locations throughout this place that we already own, that we're not having to worry about these. This is a little center in a place called Serenby, Georgia. I got a lot of examples, and I haven't started updating my examples to this part of the world yet. Luckily, there's not a lot of examples in this part of the world. So we got the opportunity to be cutting edge and be, like I said, if we were 99% built out with McMansions, we wouldn't be having that conversation because we couldn't change our course. We can change our course without giving up anything that we have now, just to make us stronger. But this type of space that you're looking at, this right here, hey, this may work. That's a little bakery, coffee shop, bookstore. Okay, this is the sales center. This is a hair salon. This is a yoga place, and just all these little elements. A couple little sandwich shops and things in there. But these are multifamily. When I'm saying multifamily, they're nice. They're condos. You got ground floor on this side. You got walk up to the second floor on the other side. That type of thing. And originally it was going to sell this section right up in through here. He said, well, we're going to sell it for single family housing or whatever. And no, then he said, no, I need a hotel. But I don't want Motel 6 moving in here. So they put in lofts all through there. So it's integrated. They've got a great for people to come and stay and look at property, great places for them to stay. They don't have to build all those things. They walk out in the morning and they go mix with all the residents over at the bakery, at the coffee shops. Everybody's driving up in their golf carts, because immediately outside of this little ring, actually starting right here, single family housing starts right here and right out of the picture. It gets back into single family. So you're looking at places where people can move to. Like I said, we're not going to run out of single family places up in the woods if that's where you want to live. But if it's time for you to move off of that and you want a place to go where you can take your golf cart and get to all these, because everybody from up in the woods comes up to these too. And because again, instead of, we're still going to do things at the Woodlands Auditorium, but those, we bring in great shows in there. They're what, $25, $30 a show. I would like to have a little band playing out in the courtyard for free on a Friday night that everybody can just come down to, bring a cooler, just be around your friends. Those things sound soft and simple, but POAs, their problem is, and y'all probably heard me quote this, we get to thinking that management is our product. Our product is quality of life. And that's the soft stuff. So we can manage the devil out of a facility like this, but if we're not programming it with cheap, fun, good things to do, that people can enjoy themselves, then what good is it? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. So let me go on. I don't want to spend too much time. This is another little village center. It's about 3 buildings. Okay? Again, these things don't have to be elaborate. We're big enough to have a big, nice one. Cooper had it designed as a big, nice one. They didn't have it designed out, but they had the location for a big, nice one. This is another area in the same community, but it's for places that are not quite walking distance. So when we look at these, it's a little general store. It's 2 little stores in through there. You can see the road down in through there. Single family housing starts about right in there. Single family housing starts. This is right across the street from the general store. It's all pretty, but that's all townhomes. Again, one entrance on one side, other ground floor on the other side. There's probably 30 units in through there. They're absolutely beautiful. There's nothing cheap about them. They're good-looking places. Oh, by the way, at HSV, those are illegal. We can't have those here. Our rules say we can't have them. These kind of housing, we can't have those here because our rules are 1975 rules. Who makes the rules? We make the rules. We can change those. Talk with George, talk with some of the things. We're looking at now some of the things that are holdover for 20 years that we need to change so that we're coming in and able to do these. Now, again, we're too big to treat everything one way. If we like the way stuff is developing on the golf course, no need to change it. If we like the way stuff is developing on the lakes, no need to change it. But obviously, somebody doesn't like the way things are up in some of these other areas because they hadn't seen a house in 40 years. So we got to look at some of these elements and change some of these. These little courtyards, you know, for the golfers, you know, the big debate I always have with the golfers at some point is when they want a new fountain on one of the ponds on the lake. You know, what costs $20,000, something like that. A little fountain like that people, non-golfers, other people can gather around on a Friday night and just spend time. That's money well spent. Not that we won't buy one for the air, but again, bring everybody together. Bring these spaces where we can, again, this space, that was just planning. They were going to build these buildings. They're just like, let's make a nice space in there for people to be. Let's don't make it so you have to stand on the street. Again, we don't allow houses to these. This is a good example. This is actually new construction. This is another area where they put in they were looking for something to add value to an area. And yeah, while there are a few people that bought in there because they can put a horse up there, they can go do horseback riding and stuff. This little lawn right here, there's a barn dance, quote, barn dance every Friday night. There's more hay rides and bonfires and people just riding up in their golf cart on Friday night. Well, I say Friday night, but 5 o'clock on a Friday night, they're having a picnic. They bring their own picnic stuff. They sit out there, they drink them a couple beers, and they're home by 9:30. But they've had I've had equestrian programs, and they only break even. I'm like, well, how do you make your money off of this? And he says, yeah, well, the equestrian programs break even, but we sell $10,000 weddings as fast as we can sell them on that lawn right there. Again, what do we have plenty of? Open space. We just got to be a little more creative on how we put something like in. If I'm sitting here saying I need something like that and it's going to cost $100,000 or $200,000, we don't need something that big. But if we need something, I don't care what it is, whether it's arts center, whether it's a equestrian center, whether what it is, and I'm sitting here saying we need to spend $200,000 on that. That's a whole lot different from we need to spend $12 million on a new golf course facility. And at the same time, if I'm coming in to some of these other areas, I'm not going to go back to the map, where the POA owns, think about it, if we own 25 lots in the influence area of one of these, that right now we're debating whether we sell them at $500 or whether we sell them at $1,000, and all of a sudden we put something in like there, $150,000, $200,000, and the value of those 25 lots goes up to $10,000 or $15,000, which is not an expensive lot. But there's a reason for that lot to exist now. Well, then we just made $250,000, $300,000. We just made our money back on that. And but what's the important thing? Yeah, we made our money back, but for the 25 lots that we own, there was another 300 lots that it influenced that some of those people are going to say, okay, I'm going to start paying my assessment. Or, more important, I'm not going to stop paying my assessment. Or I'm going to build a property. Or I'm going to sell a property. So those are the things that we're looking at. But again, we already have a lot of these elements. We're going to bring in more arts and entertainment. We're going to do those things. They're cheap, they're easy, and they're fun. If it's not fun to live here, nobody's going to care. Plain and simple, who cares if it's not fun to be here? Same thing, organic living, farm to table. For $10,000, $15,000, we can go in and put a community garden that'll be completely ran by volunteers. And again, it gives a reason for an area to exist. To come in and have a permanent space for farmers markets all the time and help those programs. Those types of things, they sound all soft and cuddly and let's just all hug. But I tell you what, that sells property these days. That is what sells properties. And the thing is, a permanent place for the farmers market would probably cost us 10 grand. We would sell more property near that than we would ever lose in doing a project like that. And this is the story we have to tell people, is not what some POA gives you. Yeah, the golf's great, the pool's great, all that is great, but what you get is what you get for living in this region. The national park, you know, hiking, mountain biking, all the riding trails. That's what the boomers are wanting. I'm not sitting here saying that's what the 18-year-olds are wanting. That's what the 60-year-olds are wanting. I'm sitting here, you know, I call people up and I'm like, you know, why are you turning your lot back in? Well, mom and dad died and we're not interested in a retirement community. And the guy I'm talking to is 66 years old. Okay? And I'm like, okay, we got a bad perception problem here. You know, we've got an issue on what we're looking at. The hunting and the fishing. We're sitting here an hour out of world class, the best in the nation, duck hunting. You can go 3 hours from here and go elk hunting. You can go 2 hours from here and catch world-class brown trout. You can go 15 minutes from here and catch rainbow trout on a fly. You can come within our gates, catch great bass, I guess I haven't fished it out here. By the way, I haven't fished it out here for any of you fishermen that would like to show me these lakes. You know, we've got all these elements that we don't really talk about because we say, yeah, we got fishing, but we don't talk about all the areas. When I told my brother-in-law that I was moving here, he'd never heard of Hot Springs Village. He said, you're moving to Lake Ouachita? That's the home of the first $1 million FLW. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude, but good. I'm glad you're excited. And we can get other people because this is a great base for people. You know, we've talked about doing kind of a rod and gun club. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to go build a shooting range. That means we're going to have a social club, big social club, that where we can travel. We'll go to Stuttgart and shoot ducks. We'll go to the coast and catch redfish. It's about the community. It costs us nothing to start, but it's something to market because people will move here for those elements. Looking at some of these others, kayak, stand-up paddling, canoeing. These are things, you know, yes, we do them in here, but we've got tremendous assets outside of them. That you don't really even notice them on our website when we're looking at that. Golf. I want to talk about golf a little bit, and I'm going to close this out here pretty soon. That's our best known resource. It's our best opportunity. We want to be known as world-class golf because we're invested in it, and we've got the opportunity to do that. But again, when I said the first thing I do is I look at the reality of these. Here's the year 2000 to 2012. This black line at the top are available starts by individuals. Okay, these are rounds of golf that could be played. The reason it's wavy, the reason it's down here, we only have, what, 6 golf courses back then? We had 6 golf courses, I think in 2000, 2001 we started adding golf courses. That added to our available rounds. John Paul did a great job in getting these numbers together for me, by the way, because if we shut a golf course down part of the year, he lowered the available rounds. But anything, I mean, he had this down in through there at 2012. You know, again, we're looking at all these. Now, here's our total golf rounds. You see what happened to our availability? Right here, you see what's happened to our availability? Climbing, climbing, climbing. We've got availability of somewhere around 470,000 rounds a year. That's our availability. Okay, what do we have played? Everybody, members, non-members, everybody. We were sitting here close to 350 rounds in through there. 2001, I'll talk about it in a minute, was our best year of utilization. But it's going down. It's going down, and it's going down, and it's going down to 2012. Okay? These are member daily fee rounds. Okay? A little spike, down, 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 down. Now these are the annuals. Well, annuals you expect to be. You're not going to buy an annual unless you're going to play 100 rounds a year. I mean, they're kind of self-selected. But what I'm seeing is the rounds have stayed the same, but nobody's increasing. We don't have people switching from daily fees over to annuals. It's going down also. And this number right here is our outside rounds. Out of all the rounds that we had, in about 2000, we had about 41,000 rounds of people outside, non-members playing golf. 2012, with 2 more golf courses put online, we had 31,000 rounds, 10,000 rounds less. So let's talk about that in a little and what that means. Unused rounds per year. 2001 was a great year. It was a great year because we only had 6 golf courses, and I think we shut 1 down for a while. So our utilization was very good. We didn't waste any golf course. And you got to think, yesterday's tee time is like yesterday's empty hotel room. It didn't cost any less to have it, but you didn't make any money off of it. So when I'm looking at these, and I'm coming up here, and I'm saying, here's basically y'all's leftovers, our golfers' leftovers, because y'all get to book all the rounds you want to book. Okay, I mean nobody's trying to take member rounds. I don't like taking member rounds for any reason. But again, 2012, you can see it dropped down, and we didn't waste quite as many. But 2012, you couldn't have asked for a better year for golf. I mean, you know, we didn't. There wasn't the weather. There wasn't any problems that we're looking at that. So again, when I look at some of these, and again, I know nobody can see this, but in 2012 and 2001, we basically had 3,500, almost 3,600 unused rounds of golf, unsold rounds of golf. Okay, in 2012, which was much better than 2011, but in 2012 we had 170 unpaid for rounds, not unpaid for, just unsold, unused, tee times that weren't even looked at. Now I see some opportunities here that I look at, and I'll tell you some programs that we've had, because again, when I say leftovers, I mean leftovers. It's one thing, to me, I think a person ought to have to pay good money, and they do here, I think it's more like 70 or 80 bucks, to come in and say, I want an 8 o'clock tee time a month and a half from now, which I know on a Friday, which I know is going to be bumping a member out of a tee time. I know that. We know it's going to be bumping. So if they want to pay 80 bucks or something on that, they need to pay that much to bump a member, because this is a member-driven club. Leftovers, okay? Now, when I'm sitting here, and you can't see these numbers, but when I'm saying, okay, we know if we're selling the first plate, if we're selling a good tee time a month and a half from now, yeah, we want 80 bucks out of that. But I'm not talking about those. We're selling those now. I'm talking about these leftovers. And I'm saying, let's say we get an average cost on this, because all these should always be higher than members pay. But let's say we get an average cost on these on a beautiful October day for leftovers in the afternoon. That might be $45, $50 a round. But when it's 105 degrees in August, that might be $38 a round. But let's say we're selling those at an average price of $40 a round. Now, we don't want to sell 170 rounds of golf. We'll wear out our golf courses. But let's get something a little more realistic. Let's look at half of that much. Let's say we want to sell half of our leftovers. Well, half of our leftovers is 84,000 rounds. At $40, that's $3.4 million that are your leftovers. These are not, we want to knock you out of your tee times. These are what's left over after you already get your tee times. $3.4 million. So I'm sitting here, and we're sitting there, how do we pay for the next few years? I'm saying, well, we're throwing away $3.4 million. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, and we only get 25% of that. Well, that's only $1.5 million. I mean, that still gets my attention, $1.5 million. That keeps assessments from going up. That keeps golf rates from going up. And that keeps, I mean, again, that lets us come in and make some of these other investments to do that. Now, again, this is not a proposal. I'm not proposing these things. We'd have to, I got to talk with boards. I got to talk with all kinds of folks. I'm just hitting the realities of what's left over. And I'm just trying to find where some of these opportunities are. So I look at opportunities like that, and I'm looking at, okay, if I can cut, we got $3 million worth of assessments that people are devalued enough that says they don't want to pay their assessment. If we can turn all that is a decision in somebody's mind. If we can get some things happening here to where they think, hey, this place is happening, it's worth seeing, and we get a third of those back on, that's $1 million a year. If we sell 25% of our leftovers, that's $1.2 million a year. we're adding up some big money. The nice thing about a program like this is who's more likely to come here to live? Somebody who's played on the weekends when y'all don't want them. I mean, basically, this is perfect for this kind of problem because I'm dealing with business people who want to play golf. When do they want to play? They want to sneak off in the late afternoon and play, or they want to play on the weekends. Our people want to play Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning, just like it's their job. And good. I like that. I like that. But again, I'm sitting here saying, okay, we're throwing away $3 million here. We're losing $3 million in that. All it is about value, adding value back to the property. And that's what we're going to focus on. I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of you folks that have these ideas. There's all kinds of ideas. There's no further ideas. But when we stop thinking about how, our property values are going down and we can't do anything about it, yes, our property values have been going down, but we can do something about it. When I look at opportunities to add value, I've cut the developed properties off here. All you're seeing are the non-performing properties. This is part of the analysis I do. I can look at that map right there and tell you where we need some value added. Because I come in and I drop something in to an area like that right there, and I'm impacting the value of 1,000 non-paying lots. When the values go up, they turn into paying lots. When the value goes up enough, they turn into homes and people spending money here. So again, that's the turnaround. We're not going to have it turned around by next year, but we're going to have plans in place to move it into that. So I'm going to switch.